Hi, my name is Blake. I'm design director and partner here at Hatch Duo.
Hi, Mark Westcott, senior mechanical engineer here at Hatch Duo. The skills required to do so, and you find success in that, you become passionate about it.
Okay,
So
I could see it that way too.
yeah,
I don't think I'm wrong.
I don't think I'm wrong.
Tea for me, I hate coffee. I can't. I just can't do it.
Neither.
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 What do you drink?
Water and juices.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but I have to do music that doesn't have lyrics because I have to write messages and communicate. And when I'm hearing words, I have trouble speaking them or typing them.
Yeah. Agreed. No lyrics.
Yeah.
And very loud.
Kind of don't want to answer that. What about you?
Messy desk. Often there's many different projects going on at the same time. Kind of have categories around my desk for all the different projects. But as we're bouncing through multiple projects at the same time, I need to have them all out and not put away every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like an organized mess, though.
It is, my wife would say, an unorganized mess, but I know where everything is.
You know, yeah. You know. That's
Yeah.
what's important.
Yeah.
All right. With a team, for sure. Occasionally I need to get away from people so I can focus, but in terms of doing work, I would much rather work with a team.
Yeah, agreed. The best designs are brainstormed.
Right.
They're not come from one point of view. You know, there are multiple inputs that help create different visions of what the product needs to be. So yeah, you need a team for that. Again, when it's time to implement, sometimes a few hours a piece just to get stuff done works well too.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's working within a team for the project.
Sketch first, I think. What are you going to prototype if you don't know, don't have a basic idea in your head?
Yeah, I think sketching also helps us develop proportions between different elements of the design without understanding the whole package first. You've got to sketch something before you can start to understand what it is.
Both, always. No, I mean, that's what we would wish.
Yeah, my answer is slightly different in that you need speed to iterate. The only way to get to perfection is many iterations. The more iterations, the more perfect. So if you're slow, you don't get more iterations. So it really does have to be speed, but the only way to get to enough iterations for perfection.
That was a really good answer.
Wow.
I mean, the end is physical. Has to end with physical. Digital is a means, but the end result should always be physical. And then you go physical in the middle as well.
And for me, I'm a mechanical engineer because I couldn't do software, can't do electrical. Mechanical is, because I need to be able to hold it and to be able to understand it. And agreed, we develop it all in digital world, but until it becomes physical, you don't know what you don't know. So
Right. Yeah.
It ends there.
No, I mean, that's a big, broad term. Aesthetic minimalism, maybe overrated, but conceptual minimalism, I think, is important. You get a better product if it's easier to understand, and that comes through stripping away anything that's not necessary.
And I had a mentor one time who said, simple isn't. And it is very, very difficult to be simple.
Yeah.
And yet cost, manufacturing, time to market, user experience, the simpler it is, the better it is.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to be simple. Sometimes we start out complex and then work and iterate to simplify it to make it what it needs to be at the end.
And pare it down, yeah. To some extent, yes. I think designers can get their vision a lot farther if they have some understanding of at least manufacturing and mechanical properties and how things behave. Yeah, without any concept of how something works, it's really just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I agree that you should have some basic understandings of what the different manufacturing methods are. What's beautiful about industrial design and mechanical engineering working together is we come at it from very different points of view. The yin and the yang, not saying one's right or wrong, is just you need different viewpoints to get the ultimate product. So many times when working with industrial design, I don't want them to be constrained by how you make it. Tell me what you want this to be like, and then let's figure out that problem later, and we'll work back and forth.
Yeah.
So as long as industrial design has a basic understanding of the processes, don't get tied in too much making a mechanical looking product because you think that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Sure,
Right.
yeah. Don't limit it.
We need these different approaches to be able to get the right product. Yes, they should understand that it's important, right? They should understand that there are basic rules to design, that aesthetics and proportions and materials and colors matter. right? There are many engineers that if they can't get to that, they need to go into aerospace or something where it doesn't matter, right? But to work in product development, we're working with end users that are not engineers. They are all flavors of life. So we need to at least be sensitive to why industrial design and sensitive to understanding why the design is the way it is. Even though we may not have designed it that way, we need to respect that side of the business for sure.
But shouldn't get so deep that you try to do it yourself, right?
Exactly, right. Yeah. As we implement our designs, we're asking industrial design to come back in and consult with us and say, did I capture this correctly? Did I lose any of the essence of what the design intent is?
When used correctly, yes. If you use it as a tool, as a means to reach a vision that you created, then absolutely, it's an invaluable tool. If someone tries to use it to shortcut or do the work for them, it's going to make a worse creative.
Yeah, we've had examples where clients have taken our industrial design and said, well, I went and plugged this into AI and I got this. And we said that's not possible, or it's going to be extremely expensive. In one case, they said, no, this is exactly what AI says I should do, and this is what I'm going to do. And they ended up with a product that cost 4 times what our product design had come up with. So they weren't looking at all the other downstream processes where AI makes a pretty picture, but doesn't consider all the other elements.
I'm gonna go with communication. You can make pretty visuals, you can 3D model the fastest, but if you can't communicate with team members, with clients, and get people to understand your idea or your vision, it's not going to go anywhere. And that can be visual communication, verbal. I think having a little of all of it is best.
I would agree. And I think it's more also about trying to explain why. You know, I have this pretty design, but why? What am I communicating with this design? What is the purpose of this form outside of aesthetics? There must be a story and a reason and a brand identity connection and a connection to the user. And if you can't explain your design, then it's just a picture.
No. Hard no. Not for consulting, at least, I would say. The design and product development as a consulting business, there's a huge gap between where school leaves off and where you need to be effective and competitive in this market.
Yeah, and for engineering, you learn a lot about the sciences that underlay what we do in engineering, but the actual implementation, your order of your design, the processes, the manufacturing requirements of all the different processes that we use in development products, those are really all on-the-job training elements that actually allow you to create your first product. Without that, you're just designing something that has a lot of science, but no understanding of what it takes to actually build it.
Anything that replaces a human body part.
Yeah, human factors is a very challenging world in that each one of us are truly individuals. And you take those human factors and try to apply general principles, it becomes very challenging to do it well for everybody.
Yeah. The broader your user base, the more difficult it is and the worse it fits any single individual.
Yeah.
The narrower the user base, you can actually start to get people.
Yeah.
you can get it to fit them, but broad user base, very, very difficult.
Just because I get my wife mostly doesn't mean I get women.
Yeah, good analogy.
I would say we would qualify this. I would say new designers, new creatives.
Okay.
Those who have more experience, right? Then it's actually a tool that it gives them more efficiency.
Okay.
I would say that the young designers coming out of school, this often is the case.
I could see that. Yeah. They see it as a shortcut,
right?
The easy button,
right?
Yeah. See, I'm playing off of your last answer because a young designer, maybe not so much. You know, maybe they should master the basics first and then implement it after.
I think, though, that there are many clients that have a hard time truly visualizing the view from marker drawings and sketches, right? And the advantage I see is when that is captured in a real life image, they can see it in a way that we couldn't do in the way we used to do it.
Sure, yeah, earlier on.
So being able to get the design right in whatever process we need, and then using AI to get that picture for the client, I think is a real value.
Yeah. I agree.
Really?
See, I was going to say the best designers will implement AI. to elevate their outcomes.
I think the human element is something AI can't replicate. And being
So
able
you're taking the question as AI by itself.
Correct.
Okay, I would fully agree with that. AI by itself cannot
Yeah.
outperform a designer. Well,
we're missing-
we're messing with each other.
I think many products, because of requirements from investors and different developers, are trying to shortcut the number of iterations to production. So most products, if they had done more iterations, would have found more failures, more things that could be better. So in that respect is where I'm saying that
I see. Speed to market.
speed to market, cost to market, those kinds of things sometimes end up with a product that doesn't knock it out of the ballpark, and then in the end, ultimately, is less successful.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the reason I went with agree is because I feel that a lot of design trends are kind of becoming a little bit homogenous. Especially if you're looking at like one corporate entity that's releasing yearly models.
Yeah.
The changes are minuscule and incremental, and it's almost change for the sake of change,
Right.
rather than like actual meaningful change or
Sure.
innovation. So in that way, it feels like it's one long design, and then they're too scared to change it, because then it won't be successful on the market.
Yeah,
Like last year's model. So
Right.
so in that way, I guess like I'd like to see more, more differentiation. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So hard and difficult to be pure without any noise in the design.
And often underestimated by clients.
Yes.
Just do this. It just has to be, and it shouldn't take that long because it's so simple. No, it takes longer to get to that really pure essence of a thing.
Yeah. Agreed.
No. Yeah.
No, usability has to be king, and when it is super usable, you have a connection with the product that makes you feel like it's beautiful, right? Like they really understood me when I use that, and that's the beauty, right?
Yeah. I will say there are times where that is true, where somebody is designing purely for the aesthetics of it. Watches is a fun example, because you see tons of young designers designing watches that they morph the face of the watch so much you can't read the time anymore.
Yeah.
And it looks gorgeous, but it's like, I don't know what time it is. Right. So it happens, but I do think that it's not a rule. Beautiful things can have excellent usability.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that.
I feel like the designers that are purely idealistic are not successful, right? That they are to a point that nobody wants to work with them because they can't actually get to market.
Yeah.
So in general, I say we're making these broad statements. Are they too idealistic? In general, I really enjoy the challenge of, could we possibly do this? This ideal that I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Let's ask an engineer. Let's see if we can figure out how to work together as a team.
Yeah.
And so we do need that kind of blue sky idealism. And it doesn't mean we land there, but it pushes us in a direction that really gets us a much better product.
we're just playing to each other's ego.
Right?
Yeah, no,
I'm not talking about myself.
I might have said agree before working with you.
Well, I appreciate that. Many engineers like to design boxes because they're really easy, right? Because they're a rectangle and you extrude it. But pushing the limit, being outside your comfort zone, is what's so fun about product development. Is it's never been built before. It's not like I'm taking a widget and making it the next generation and not really stressing how far can I go to the edge and see if we can push this thing into the next level.
Right. Yeah. But you're not like that.
I appreciate the push, and not everybody likes the push.
Right. Yeah.
I think when you understand the basics of manufacturing, it gives you more freedom, right? Like if I know that I can do this with die casting versus doing this with thermal forming, doing this with fabrics and soft goods, are all other areas where you have some understanding to know that there's guardrails to your design,
Right.
but not to say that you're an expert in it and say, I'm now constrained because of I knowing too much. You just need to know where the guardrails are.
But I think knowing the guardrails helps you know where you can push too.
Yeah, right.
Like understanding how something works. It's like, well, I know this isn't how it's usually used, but I kind of know how it's made, so maybe we can push it a little farther into this new, interesting use.
Yeah, and when designers like yourself say those kinds of things, I say, yes, we can't do that, but we could do this because I haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
Pushing those edges of ideas really helps us to think outside the box, not just say this is the one way to get there. Well, let's define what sketch means. Right?
Yeah.
If you've worked with me at any time at all, you'll know that almost all my sketches are cross sections.
Okay.
Right? I
Yeah.
am not drawing in perspective in 3/4 view.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's a skill I'm not going to have. That's a skill that you have. So sketching can mean a lot of different things. But being able to communicate your design, communicate how something goes together, and doing that with sketching is important.
And that's exactly why I say that. It's a form of communication and it saves time.
Right.
If you can communicate an idea visually, you're just going to get to the result faster.
And I often have worked with designers where they're sketching in 3D and I'm sketching in cross section, and we have to flip our brains to look at each other's sketches. But that's part of the communication process.
Right. Yeah. I was trying to figure out there's not a third side to this.
I mean, that's the beauty of Hash Duo. We don't have to have a final say. It's a team say. I don't know that you can say there's a final say. There are final says in different elements, right? CMF, absolutely, right? Moldability, I got to have that one. Packaging, we're going to work together to get the right stuff. So the beauty of Hash Duo is our team approach, right?
Right. Playing tennis, we're bouncing it back and forth. Maybe that's a bad analogy because somebody misses the ball eventually. But no, I would fully agree. Like, it has to be a consensus. There is no final say. The product is going to hit the market, and that's the final say, but that doesn't belong to any one person.
Yeah, again, in the engineering phase, we do need the consultants of the ID to make sure the designs are captured properly, that the call-outs on the drawings match the CMF requirements, that together we have captured all the elements of the design.
Yeah. I mean, engineers have to change something, and then designers are going to comment on it, but it's not final. It's just going to bounce back and forth. It has to.
I don't know if I can agree with or disagree with that.
I mean, who has to say that everyone can't get what they want?
That's right. I have done products together where we have got everything we wanted.
Yeah. It won't always happen, but
it doesn't always happen. So I don't know how we answer that. I think with enough iteration, with enough user testing, we should be all getting what we want.
A satisfactory compromise that we are all okay with. I think that's been demonstrated, right? There have been enough success stories, high-profile success stories that show that that's true.
Yeah, intelligence, in both scientific and emotional intelligence, will take you a long way. Being creative and understanding tools and how to use them will take you a long ways, and those don't all come from a degree.
Yeah, I think especially in industrial design, I think I can't say that I've ever seen someone be successful without school, because usually that's the best way to acquire all of the skills necessary to be a designer. But if someone were to just dig in and learn all of that themselves, they could be successful. Nobody's necessarily checking, do you have a degree? Okay, we're going to look at portfolio first, and if it's good, then we'll work with you. The degree is almost secondary. And that's kind of how design works.
Yeah, and in engineering, I've seen several examples of people who have been in software engineering who have picked it up and developed themselves, read books and understand what structures need to look like, as well as electrical engineers in DIY, the world of Adafruit and all the other things that are out there. You can teach yourself a lot about electrical engineering. Mechanical, I have not seen it as much because you do need to understand materials and stresses and some of those things. It is possible, yes.
Yeah. What? Really?
Yeah.
You were just telling us how you've never pulled an all-nighter.
True. I think when work-life balance becomes a focus, both of them lose.
Okay.
Right? So, especially in our world in product development, there is never going to be a just right. Right? There are going to be projects that happen that the next 2 weeks are just going to be what it's going to be to get there.
Yeah.
And other times you have to understand that the work is light and being able to enjoy that. Having been in consulting my whole career, it's a difficult thing to learn, right? When there's too much work, you're thankful for it. And when there's not enough work, you're thankful for it. It's a challenge, I think. But if you are always focusing on, I need to be done at 5 o'clock every night to get my work-life balance, that hurts both sides.
I see. How does it hurt the family side?
Well, I think when you aren't able to finish a project, the stress only goes up, the ramping up and everything else. You take that home. That's part of how you feel about yourself. When we're able to complete a project, it's a good feeling, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And being able to you provide it for your family and ready to enjoy when the time is off.
All right, I'm going to lead this one. I believe that passion leads to talent. I think that talent is not inherent, it's not implicit. You build it, you learn it. And I think passion is the way to do that. If you're passionate for something, then you pour yourself into it, you spend more time on it, and then you are talented in it. That's how I see it.
I see it the exact opposite. In that the more you actually invest into something and the more talent that you create and the skills that you create, you become passionate about it. On the other side, you could say nobody grew up saying, I want to be a tax attorney, for example. Right?
Okay.
But as you learn the skills and you learn how to navigate your world and the skills required to do so, and you find success in that, you become passionate about it.
Okay.
So
I can see it that way too.
yeah.
I don't think I'm wrong.
I don't think I'm wrong either. I think that, we sometimes over preach passion.
Okay.
And so some people say, well, my passion is going to come from being famous. My passion is going to come from having a lot of people like me, or my passion. And those things, I think, hurt the pathway to success.
I see.
Because you're focused on that rather than the skills that will take you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do that all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
I hope you liked this rapid fire Q&A with a designer and an engineer. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hi, my name Mark is. I'm the worst at this. I'm gonna be terrible at this.
I hope you lied.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try that again. I'm no better than you are.
Yeah.
I didn't mess up my own name, though.
Yeah.
I hope you liked this rapid fire Q&A with. It is hard. My hands and my palms are sweaty.